Hello and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Eddie Funxta, and today we talk about cannabis and cancer. Eddie is an expert in this field. If you just Google cannabis and cancer, he'll come up with his documentary. He's been featured in multiple documentaries. He's written articles. And on top of that, he's a musician that plays handpan and didgeridoo and does sound healings for plant medicine communities. He has been working with cannabis for the last 30 years and is a cactus and medical cannabis breeder. So he gets the cannabis, he cooks it down, he takes all the impurities out of it. It comes in its rawest, most pure form of this oil. And then he figures out how much a person needs, what format they need it in. Do they need it in a suppository? Do they need it in an oil? And then he works with these patients, and he's really been doing a lot to heal them. I'm so happy to have Eddie here to share his wisdom. I want to thank you so much for being here today. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please take a moment to give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. So much gratitude if you leave a comment or a review. And I'm going to hop on in with my episode with Eddie. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast, a place to explore possibility through mindfulness, movement, and self-discovery. Our intention is to deliver insight and inspiration while fostering conversations that are genuine, unfiltered, and deeply human. We hope you will enjoy today's episode. Hi, Eddie. Good morning, and welcome to the Connected Community Podcast.
Good morning.
I'm so excited to have you, and I love your name, Eddie Funxta. And I have been following you for a while, and I feel like you have so much to offer the world. And so basically today I want to cover cannabis and cancer. And I feel like you've been in the cannabis world for over like 30 years. And at this time you have your hand in so many different pots, but I was looking, and one of them is cactus and medical cannabis breeder. And so I'd love for you to share your path into the cannabis world and how you got from there to where you are now today.
Cool. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here. I super appreciate you being interested in me and my story and the work that I've been doing for my whole life. It's actually been a life's journey. In 1989, my uncle passed away of AIDS. And so I was kind of like thrusted into the whole community of, my family dealing with the situation. And, I was 12. So it kind of pushed me already as a youth, like, damn, this is terrible. And I was living in kind of like I call it the projects, but it was kind of like a low income, multi duplex complex apartment region. And so a lot of people in the area were also, they had AIDS, they had cancer. And so I'd see this constantly over and over. It didn't really click too much to me about the cannabis thing. I was a freshman in high school coming up, and DARE program was really running rapid at the time. It was the early 90s. And so there wasn't a cannabis culture. It was kind of more of like a cannabis complex. So, people really had heavy complexities about it. It wasn't a medical situation yet. It wasn't happening like that yet. Me and my friends, we were enjoying it. I got into smoking ganja because I had a real pretty girl. She had pulled out a joint, and I thought she was pretty, and I took a couple hits, and it was like I didn't really feel much, but I played the I'm high kind of game, and it didn't really work. But a couple years later, my friends pulled out a little bong. I got high with that, and I couldn't walk, and I really scared the hell out of me, and I wasn't really like for the culture, but I liked the music. It wasn't just techno music, it was just underground music. So it was like underground hip hop music. And so there was a lot of cannabis around in the culture and stuff. And so then out of nowhere, Proposition 215 kind of hit the culture. It was 1994 at the time. Here in California, that was the medical marijuana law. And the author of it, his name was Dennis Perone. He pushed it on the effort of cancer patients. And so in high school, I wasn't doing well in school at all. And so a teacher asked me to, hey, if you go down to the downtown office and try to get some signatures, do anything for it. Dude, I don't care if you just like give your mom a pamphlet for the laws that are going to be passed soon. Like, I'll give you a better grade. Like, you seem like you're a very charismatic person, but school just is not good for you. And So I went down to the registrar's office one day, and at the time it was a pretty dynamic time. There was a proposition at the time called Prop 187, and that was an immigration law at the time, which it's pretty impactful when you think about it at this moment too, because it was a pretty impactful thing here in California. And then there was
Mm.
Proposition 5, which was the Native American casinos. You know, they were trying to dominate more land and get more money for the natives, and so there was this huge like culture shock thing going on. And so I'm walking down this hallway, and you have Proposition 5 and all the Native American stuff, and then Proposition 187, and you have all these people that are fighting for immigration. And then Prop 215, and that was a big ganja leaf. And as my smile happens now, is exactly what happened in that moment. I was a young kid, 16, 17 years old, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go do that. What do you guys? Knocked on the door, and some vets were in there, and they signed me up and said, where are you at? And I told them the location I was at, and set me up at my local grocery store. And when I walked up, this vet was there, and he was not happy that I was a young kid with him for the day to get signatures. And
Yeah.
I got grinded on the whole day.
Mm.
He broke me down
Mm.
about being a young stoner. How come I wasn't in school? I better be doing good in school. And cannabis was helping him with his PTSD and all these other. I told him about my uncle, and that kind of gave me and him a different conversation, because he told me that Dennis Peron, the author, was actually an AIDS advocate, and of the movement was actually found on the AIDS movement, but they had to use cancer patients because AIDS was still used as this big
Yeah.
negative concept. So in the beginning of my life, everything has been from AIDS to, it's just been this dynamic thing of traumatic culture shock and social stigma. So I just took advantage of it and said, cool, I'll take the signatures. I'll listen to you, man. I've been a musician my whole life, a DJ, and started playing drums and making techno music and stuff. And it kind of pulled me out of the project ghetto kind of world, because these studios and stuff, I was going to Hollywood. I was making music with a group called Medicine Show, and they're like a live techno trance group. And so there, I had good weed, I had access to good cannabis, and then the medical marijuana law passed, and it just kind of opened the floodgates for us all to start experimenting more with cannabis, because we had we had kind of a shield with the medical marijuana law. We were able to grow more cannabis. I was breeding, I went to a harvest fest thing that a lawyer would throw. His name was Bruce Margolin, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
have this harvest fest on Melrose and in Hollywood every
Oh my
October.
gosh.
Every October,
Yeah.
and I was one of his cordial guests, and it was amazing. And I was
Mm.
pulled out some weed one day, and this guy was like, "Oh man, I got that too." And this other guy was like, "Hey, I grew that too." And it was like five of us all had the same weed, and I was like, I want to do something different." So I went home and started realizing like we're growing all these female plants. Nobody was growing males, and that's how you breed plants. And so
Yeah.
growing up as a kid, or my parents grew, we bred Rottweilers. And so I kind of already knew the fundamentals about breeding. I wasn't like into it really heavy, but um, I just kind of threw myself into it, got a male plant, started making seeds, and started working with the plants, and finding out that just isn't how it works. Just putting a male to a female, you're going to have a lot of situations and problems. Again, this is the early 2000s, late 90s, and it just opened me up to, Proposition
Mm.
215 passed in 1995. By 1999, I was already growing a lot of
But I
cannabis.
didn't realize that I actually didn't realize that it had been medical marijuana law had been passed so early. And so did that allow the growing of it, or is that still illegal?
No, at the time when the law passed, we had kind of like this gray area until about 2004, when a new law that kind of locked it all down. It was called Proposition SB Senate Bill 420.
Yeah.
That came out, and that gave us all of the limits, laws, limitations that each county can kind of incorporate. So, being from Southern California, I'm more in a heavy urban environment, and so a lot of the communities were really against growing in the communities. But then when you get more to the rural areas, Central California, Northern California, you had a lot more open land. People had, acreage and stuff. And so in the cities, they gave us a 6 plant minimum, 10 feet by 10 feet. The canopies were kind of mixed. We had great doctors that were like signing off that you can have more than the state recommends. And so
Yeah.
they pushed us to be able to push the envelope a little bit more. We would get numerous patients, 10 patients together, and that would be 60 plants. And so we would be able to grow a whole backyard full of cannabis, and we did. And we did that in a town called Temecula in Riverside County that was like super, it was like a brand new city that was going in. And they were really like against anything progressive, and anything besides like a Starbucks could not go into this town.
Yeah.
Really nice homes. And then we had a whole group of 15 patients growing a massive plot of cannabis. And we
So they
fought.
loved you in that town.
Oh yeah, we fought. They raided us. They raided us a couple times. We fought them. We got our cannabis back. And so
Wow.
it taught me a lot. But yeah, that was really early in the cannabis time where it was just a fight against just expressing the information, having the information, knowing the information. Uh,
Hmm.
at the time, it was a really open market. So, you know, I started working with AIDS patients in groups, and I started learning how to make tinctures and suppositories, and it just wasn't cancer patients anymore. And the dynamic just
Hmm.
constantly changed. And so I just been blessed with constantly being evolving at the early stages of this stuff, which today in the recreational world, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of has been like picked and taken from the medical world. We still grow our own. We still take care of ourselves in that manner. I don't feel like the recreational world really conflicted with me. Financially, the world that we lived in at the time was, you know, it was a dream come true. And so I'm really grateful that it taught me a lot. That today I can teach people how to use it, because we really used it as the only way to survive at the time. Cancer patients were walking away from chemo radiation treatments, and they were just using cannabis, taking baths, using salves, immersing themselves with tinctures and oils and all those things. And so in that, I had to learn regimens on how to make sense to people that were getting cancer and, you know, never knew anything about cannabis because they knew their grandma used it, you know, during the early
Yeah.
days and stuff. So it's good times.
So if somebody does have cancer and they want to use cannabis, what are some reasonable expectations and some unreasonable expectations? Because I'm assuming some people come to you as like really unreasonable requests or expectations, or and I'm guessing that sometimes like cannabis will surprise us with its healing energy. And so um what is a reasonable cure or I don't know, panacea for cancer with that?
My best suggestion is that, you know, cannabis itself, as soon as you take cannabis into the body, it turns on every cell in your body that has cancer, and so it just magnetizes itself to it, and just it just works with it, which is attacking it. Um, so in that, I recommend it's mostly the person's personality. Cannabis itself works in many forms. Some people need small doses, some people need large doses, but it's really their perspective. And I like to express to people to live their life like uh, take as much as you can when you go to bed at night, and then during the day, kind of maintenance yourself during it. So, if I use, for example, I have an 86-year-old patient that she's never used cannabis in her entire life, and she has Alzheimer's, and she got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So, how do I talk to this 86-year-old lady that just watched my documentary because her doctor said that her treatments are going to be pretty bad and she should seek cannabis?
Hmm.
And this is
Her doctor said that.
her oncologist told her this. And
Wow.
And so here in Southern California, it's pretty progressive. And,
That's awesome.
you
Yeah.
know, we have dispensaries all over the place. It's a pretty common thing. They don't know how to work with, doctors don't know how to work with and how to prescribe that stuff. And so, you know, she went home and went onto Google and she typed in cannabis and cancer.
There
And
popped your documentary.
yep, and she watched it, sent me a text. I have massive amounts of emails, and I wish I can save the world, but I just cannot. And so I try to work with where I can, where I can make sense. If there's a message and somebody says they've tried all these treatments and nothing works, this ain't gonna work either. So I just
Hmm.
they have the information. Hopefully they can find it locally, you know. But I also can't work with people really out of the state 'cause it's kind of hard. But I guide them and I consult them and I help them find what they need. So for her,
Hmm.
she's an 86-year-old lady that comes from Harry Anslingers and all the propaganda of cannabis, and I constantly deal with it every day. And so I have these levels of propaganda I have to push through. I have the reefer madness culture. That's this 86-year-old lady, and I have the recreational culture today. The people that have been sold for the horrible growers that didn't know how to do anything except sell this product they created because they don't know how to grow cannabis. So I have to tell them that CBDA isn't going to kill their cancer. I have to express to them that just because you were sold the propaganda of that doesn't mean that You can't take
Yeah.
a million milligrams of CBDA and shrink your cancer. It's just not going to happen. So this lady, what was your relationship? She had none. My documentary was one of the first things that she kind of encountered. I suggested that she reached out and watched other things to open her mind and make some sense. She told me that because I have a doctor in my documentary also, so it kind of, she said that it felt, some of the other features that she watched, she said just kind of felt kind of hokey and didn't feel honest and didn't feel like, she felt like they were kind of leading her, segueing her towards a certain product. But she said that she liked at the end where I told her that I'm not special and I could teach people how to do this themselves, and that
Yeah.
I don't want to be their dealer. So in that, we came up with the quality regimen. How are you sleeping at night? I'm not. When's the last time you had a full night's of rest? She said maybe when I was 13.
Wow.
She said as soon as I started having my periods, my menstrual cycles, I stopped sleeping well, anxiety and stress. That's where all this comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On top of the diagnosis, are you getting any sleep? Not at all. Now I have this diagnosis and I'm in pain and I'm not sleeping. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about your daytime? What do you do during the day? Do you play bridge? Do you go in the garden? Do you go for walks? What do you like to do?
Yeah.
What is
Mm-hmm.
a great day for you, pain-free, and you woke up feeling motivated? And so I learned what these people's situations are, and then from that I have to use my experience, knowledge. I create the medicine. I still make the medicine. I've been making it for over 15 years. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I work with a lot of licensed growers here in Southern California, and I get licensed material from them. I help these growers' families also. And so I'm
Yeah.
able to provide the medicine back to them to help quite a bit of pretty important people here in Southern California, which I'm pretty blessed to be able to have that access, that even people that
Mm-hmm.
make this for the legal market, they still get
Yeah.
their personal supply from me, um, because of my knowledge, understanding, and the way I work with them of knowing how the medicine works with them once they ingest it.
So are you saying that you use specific strains for specific people, and then the dosage is person specific as well as the method of ingestion?
Pretty much, not so much strain specific or anything like that. Once I make the oil, I actually get rid of all the terpene profiles, decarboxylate everything down to where you're just getting THC in the oil. The CBD that I use comes from a good quality lab of people that I work with, and so I'm able to get good quality CBD. So when I do my alchemy work and I actually make a custom dose for somebody, I'm able to use high quality CBD, clear pure CBD, 99.9% CBD isolate, and then I'm able to use my pure RSO oil made from food grade ethanol, and I'm able to dose them. And I've had it tested.
So you mix them together at specific quantities
Yep.
per person.
Yep. And so it's not strain specific, it's mostly dosage specific and it's personality
Okay.
specific. So,
Yeah.
in the years of doing this, I've been able to work with them to know, like, if you need a tincture, you're getting out of chemo radiation, and you're having heavy nausea, they need a tincture. They can't take a pill. They can't smoke a joint. Like, none of the stuff I give you is to smoke. Like, all the products that
Mhm.
I make what I call my wellness capsules. I make tinctures, I make suppositories, I make salves. My fiance, she also makes bath salts, and she also makes aromatherapy stuff also that helps. And she makes feminine products too. So our suppositories are vaginal and rectal suppositories, because I work with women
Yeah.
with endometriosis and cervical cancers, unfortunately, ovarian cancers. It helps with
Yeah.
testicular cancers and hip surgeries. So I create all those products. Once they use the oil so much, like this 86-year-old lady, she started off with, I would probably say, about probably 5 milligrams to go to bed at night of RSO. Pure.
So what is RSO? It's Rick Simpson oil, but is that the oil where you take the terpenes out?
Yes. It's
And
all.
so can you tell people what you're actually taking out and why, for people that don't know? I don't know what the word I'm looking for. that don't
They
that
don't know the
don't
lingo
know
of it.
how that all works.
Yeah, they don't know the lingo of it pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so indica, couch lock, sativa, energetic, those things are
Hmm.
mostly come from the terpene profile. That's, when you open the bag and you smell it.
Yeah.
When you smoke that, when you ingest that chemical profile within your body will give you those experiences. So when I decarboxylate or boil it down, I'm
Hmm.
actually trying to concentrate the THC And instead of getting real scientifical, I'm going to
Yeah.
break it down really layman terms. I just kind of cook it down to where all of those flavonoids go away, because
So they're
those
like
are,
flavor profiles, or like, is that kind of what it is?
it's pretty much, it's kind of like what you smell for it's, we call it terpenes, and that's kind of like a
Yeah.
word that's not used in anywhere except for like making perfume or
Yeah.
cannabis, and those two worlds are
Okay.
very, very small. So when you smell cannabis, smells like a skunk or smells like garlic, or they have other names, bananas or things like that. So that smell, that flavor, when you smoke that, you ingest those terpenes, those will give you that indica feeling. They'll give you that sativa feeling. The THC itself is THC.
Yeah.
The CBD is CBD. So how do I get rid of, OG Kush? I'm going to use for example. It's a very strong plant, odor wise, smoke wise. A little goes a very long way.
Hmm.
Just opening that bag. I've had people have like allergic reactions, break out in hives, start itching, and I've had people smoke it and have a process and start having internal conversations, psychedelic experiences. It's very strong cannabis. I take that plant and I cook down all of those flavors and those terpene profiles, and my body doesn't have to chemically break them down, which causes anxiety, frustrations, and inflammation within my body. That's
Hmm.
negative. That's negative work of what I'm trying to do. So when you're smoking cannabis and you're getting the couch lock, you're getting hungry, and you're kind of getting lethargic. A lot of that, the THC is the THC. It's going to do that itself. But the terpene
Yeah.
profile is going to additionally add that too. It's kind of like an aromatherapy in the room, but the room is your head.
Yeah.
The room is your head.
So what is the piece for some people where cannabis creates anxiety? Because that's common.
Very common. And that, a lot of that, a long time ago, we kind of perceived that to terpene called myrcene. A little bit of myrcene would actually give people a lot of anxiety and limonene, and those are in the OG Kush, sour diesel type genetics, chem dogs and stuff. These are older plants, and so we still work with those genetics today. That's why I talk about them. I'm not using a lot of the newer genetics today, and so
Hmm.
those profiles, when I was able to when you cook them down and you break down those smells, you have a very strong concentration of just THC. And so the body now just has to learn how to break down THC, which we have tremendous cannabinoid receptors in our body. And so now it doesn't have to break down. So instead of getting a cake with all kinds of too much frosting on it and too much cake, you just get a perfect cake with for you, the right amount of frosting, you know,
Yeah, right.
just for you. Like, it's not made for everybody, just for you. And so
Mhm.
when I create that product for somebody, their body's not breaking down all these other chemicals, because they're already breaking down tons of other chemicals, whether they're going to chemo, radiation, or they just got diagnosed with cancer. It's because they usually have tons of chemicals in toxins in their body. So I don't
Yeah.
want to add to that. That's why I get them off of edibles. I try to get them off of gummies, uh, stuff like that, so that the THC itself can just go into their body and work on them. So on the flip side of this, what ends up happening is that their body just absorbs THC and CBD. It's not breaking down indica or sativa. I cooked that away. I got to a level of the medicine to where your body is understanding THC. Your liver is breaking it down if you're taking it orally.
Hmm.
If you're taking it rectally, it's going right through your body, or vaginally, it's going right into your bloodstream, and it's working on your muscles and relaxing all the inflammation in your bloodstream, completely helping your body, helping in that space. That doesn't have to figure out what this caffeine terpene is to
Yeah.
stress out the chemical system within the body. It's kind of an inert system that just goes in there and just kind of mellows everything out. From that, after about a month or so of these patients experiencing this medicine, of getting a full night's rest, because I make a dose for bedtime, and then if they need to be focused during the day, I'll make a daytime dosage that kind of clears out the THC in their head, gets them more hyper focused, alleviates pain, and keeps them hyper focused for the day. Um, After about a month of this, I'll tell them, like, you can experience trying a pre-roll. You can enjoy an edible. Like, you're not using it to fight your cancer or to fight this ailment. We need to strip all the things away that are causing these things to grow in your body, whether it's inflammation, cancer, or tumors, whether it's food derivative or it's from your environment or your stress. We have to like learn what is causing this issue. Because my whole
Hmm.
thing isn't F cancer. My whole thing is F what causes cancer. And that's usually high stress, low sleep, improper diet, and low motivation. And so I try to help people find that internal spirit within themselves of, I feel good. And once they get good rest, our body's like a battery. Once you take so much of the oil and the first few weeks, they're knocked out, they're sleeping pretty hard. I'm working them through the dosage. After a while, their body starts to metabolize it really good. A month later, everybody goes to wander off the kitchen table to go to the garage. You can go with them now, and you can laugh and joke with them and have a life experience of just sharing a joint. And you're not going to be overwhelmed. You're not going to be, anxiety or freaked out. You're actually going to be in a very comfortable space because you use it for fighting a situation, and now you can enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if somebody does have, like, they use recreational cannabis or even medical cannabis, like they go into the we have that in Colorado, the dispensaries, and they're feeling that anxiety still from those sources, then what advice would you have for them? Because they're not able to enjoy it in the way that you're talking.
Yeah, so that's really the trick of stuff, is like not knowing which companies are out there are hyper focused on the products of uh, compassion. Today, it's all about capitalism and bottom lines, and
Yeah.
it's really hard out there for the industry.
Yeah.
It's extremely hard, and that's I would always suggest to please stay away from the gummies. Please stay away from the high sugars and preservatives. This is
Mhm.
just not preserving the cannabis on the shelf or the food on the shelf or the drinks. It's actually preserving the cancer in your body too. So stay away from preservatives. I would highly suggest finding, they call it Phoenix Tears, Rick Simpson oil, the oil, find oil, ask them for the oil, learn how to eat the most rawest form that you can take. In my documentary about cannabis and cancer, that's what I expressed to them all. I stopped getting my patients on edibles because, uh, again, they're going through chemo, and that's a ton of chemicals going through their body. And then
Mm.
they eat an edible that's, the shop put a bunch of preservatives on it because it's got to stay on the shelf for a year because they
Yeah.
gotta sell it. You eat that preservative, that's another chemical your body's trying to figure out. The cannabis is literally the needle in the haystack, and so it's hard to work in that space. So the more they can strip down, I tell them, if you can get some they call it full strength oil, Phoenix Tears, Rick Simpson oil. I call it NHO, Native Healing Oils. The stuff that I make, whatever you can find of that, take the raw form of just pure THC to let your body just absorb that, take that as much as you
Mhm.
can, so that you can utilize these other things because it's hard to find that stuff on a constant. For me, I
Mhm.
can't produce enough of it. Unfortunately, once people understand the quality of it and the benefits of it, it's hard to keep on the shelf. For dispensaries and stuff, for
Mhm.
them, they have to actually do outreach to the community, and that outreach has to be on many levels. It's the community of what is needed, what is in their community, what is their community suffering from, and then it
Yeah.
goes back into the garden and into the laboratory guys that are creating products of, well, the reason why your gelato 39 is sitting on the shelf turning into dust because nobody wants to smoke cannabis here. They come in and they buy a pre-roll and it hurts their throat. They have a negative experience. Their doctor told them to go use cannabis. They don't know what to do. They go in there and they ask for Funxta West Coast. They ask for Eddie Funxta. They ask for NHO. They don't know who I am. They don't know what it is. They ask for Rick Simpson oil. They say we can't talk about that, and so they
Mm.
just get these walls. And so
Yeah.
if they can go, try to find some pure CBD stuff, some pure the stuff with the least ingredients is the best.
Yeah. But so just to clarify, the oil that you're talking about, the Rick Simpson oil, is different than the oils that people smoke,
Yes, this is
correct?
not vape pen stuff.
Yeah, because
I like.
I'm imagining people are gonna think about the vape pen because that comes in an oil form and that's different than what you're talking about.
So this is the oil comes in. They usually put it in a oral syringe. So this is
Yeah,
typical oil syringe. This is 10-gram syringe right here. This is a lot. This is usually a single gram syringe. So and they're
10
very.
grams.
This is 10
Yeah,
grams. Yeah, this is for prostate cancer patient that we're working with. It's coming to pick this up.
but they wouldn't use that whole thing
They would use this.
in one.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, how much would they take?
So this person, so, he started with one of these,
Yeah.
and this is 1 gram, 1 cc, 1 ml, kind of the way it kind of breaks down. There's 10 little notches on here, so there's little markers on here. So each one of them is a tenth of a gram or a tenth of a cc, tenth of a
Yeah.
ml. Rick Simpson recommended in his documentary many years ago when he was helping people to start with a grain of rice, which is 0.1 cc, tenth of a gram,
Whoa.
tenth of a gram,
Grain of rice of that?
size of a grain of rice. So there's about 10 doses in this whole syringe right here. So this is
Yeah. And so how would they take that orally?
Yep. So the trick is I teach them how to use the syringe. The trick of the syringe is that most people get this syringe and they want to do this, right? Because that's what we're all. Oh, you just squeeze it
Yeah.
like that. I teach them
Yeah.
to hold the syringe in their hand, and then they use the Let me see if I can do this a way that makes sense. So you hold the whole syringe in your hand, and you put your first finger on the plunger so that you can put pressure on it, so that you can adjust how much you push out, and
Mm-hmm.
that right there is about how much I would start. Where's my camera? This is
Yeah.
about how much I would start a patient on.
Okay. That's like the size of a little ladybug.
Yep, size of a pea or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
from that part, they start from that, and that sometimes is, I'm serious, an ayahuasca experience. It's an ibogaine experience. These people go into this hard space of deep psychedelic work. They don't understand
Yeah.
that cannabis is. That's why it's a Schedule One drug. The people really had heavy experiences. Cannabis is a very strong entheogen, and it works really, really heavy on the spirit. And so people that aren't connected with themselves really find themselves, and that's a really hard deal. That little dose I showed you,
Yeah.
I've had people tell me they've talked to their past relatives, they've talked to their ego, and been very afraid of the dose because of that. And so I had to learn how to, like, all right, so how do I cut that down to even more? And that's where our tinctures come in, our suppositories, our capsules. I'm able to take
Mm-hmm.
that dosage and break that down to where it's almost like nothing. I can go all the way down to about 1 milligram per dose. And what I just took right there was about 100 milligrams of pure THC oil.
Oh my God. Wow.
So now
Wow.
this one right
So
here.
how long does it take? I mean, that's getting into your bloodstream immediately, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so when you take it orally, like I just did right now, the onset was within minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. I already feel it in my forehead. I already feel it in my chest and my body. It's already relaxing and calming myself down from, any kind of inflammation, or even just being a little, hyped up from wanting to talk to you on the screen. Like, it's just kind of
Yeah.
puts me a little mellow space. For a cancer patient or somebody going through chemo or radiation, orally doing that would instantly get rid of nausea and help them be able to eat.
Mm.
When they need to go to bed at night, I would have them they would take that small dosage, and as soon as the nausea went away, they would put it into a capsule and they would take the capsule. So I teach people how to take this. I put this into feeding tubes in people. The food that they use, the malt that they
Yeah.
use for people in the feeding tubes,
Yeah.
I've infused this with those and have given it to my very dear friends that have passed, that have been on feeding tubes. In my cannabis documentary about cannabis and cancer, is a picture with me and my friend Alex that had ALS, and he's in the hospital, and he's smiling because I just dosed the heck out of his feeding tube,
Yeah.
and he was super happy.
Yeah.
So I teach people how to
Yeah.
work with that space, but like this gentleman, that's what he started with. So this one lasted him about 2 weeks. The 1 gram,
Yeah.
he was taking it every night to go to bed. I recommend them taking it when they go to bed because they should sleep through the effects. Then they get started. You don't need to, see the walls melting, and you don't need to go through that, So
Yeah.
take the dose, go to sleep. It doesn't put you to sleep. It assists with sleep. So I tell them to, when they turn their light off, put their book down, turn the TV off, take this dose, go to sleep. It assists with
Yeah.
sleep. After about 2 weeks, they can start exploring, because probably about a week, they'll start to notice that they're not sleeping the whole night. They're metabolizing a little bit better. We up the dose a little bit more. And so I work with the patients on a personal consulting like that. So once they get to a certain point where this syringe would start lasting them about a week, about 2 weeks, and starts lasting them about 3 to 4 days, we start
Yeah.
working with them about how to start taking it during the day, and That's where these syringes start coming into play, to where now he's taking about a gram to go to bed at night, and
Yeah.
during the day he's probably taking about half a gram throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so we teach them how to work with it, because your body starts to understand it. You feel the positive benefits of it. They have proper bowel movements. The headaches and the stress and the tension in their neck start to go away. They can think a little bit more clearly now of what the decisions they need to advocate for themselves. And that's where I start to empower the people of, like, what you can't find. The doctor's not going to recommend this to you. The doctor's not going to empower you.
Hmm.
I found this here in Southern California, in the state of California, because of one gentleman and a group of people that believe that people should die with dignity. We gave them the effort to die with dignity, and some of them didn't die. They got off the deathbeds and was like, this needs to be all over everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just try to give that spirit to people that have never experienced it, and the effort that the world that I come from.
I mean, it sounds like it's not a cure-all, but it helps with sleep, it helps with anxiety, it helps with calming the nervous system, it helps all of that in conjunction helps with the immune system and like getting the immune system stronger. And then the body is like functioning at a higher capacity. And that is where like the curing comes in, right? It's not actually targeting the cancer, but it's targeting everything around it so that your body is optimizing itself and maybe beginning to heal itself. Is that correct?
That is all correct. But on top of all that, it has been shown
Mhm.
tremendously that it actually makes cancer eat itself.
Mhm.
So it does attack the cancer. And that's like something that
Wow.
it's proven over, no matter how many times they try to disprove it. THC itself just makes cancer kill itself. And so I try to tell people the analogy of what happens is that it makes the cancer so stoned. It just
Yeah.
starts it just starts to eat its hand. Keep
Yeah.
keep letting it eat its hand. Just keep eating this oil. Don't let it move. Don't let it progress. Keep it still and keep it calm. Put a force field around that thing, and change your diet, because your diet is directly what caused that to grow in your body. That kidney cancer isn't like today's world. It's not like it's not Russian roulette anymore. It's actually a choice of change your damn life, dude. You're
Yeah, because it feeds on sugar, like, doesn't it? Like, it just feeds on sugar.
I mean, that's kind of the main thing of it, but all the chemicals they put in our food today, it's not even so much of that. I was part of a study years ago with a group of AIDS patients, and they actually found out that in our food, that they learned how to turn on autoimmune disorders in our body just by our food. So the chemicals that
Mhm.
they put in our food, the PG23 and PG22 genome in our DNA coding, is what they turn
Mhm.
on with these dietary things, and that causes autoimmune disorders, which open us to a gateway and plethora of tons of inflammation, irritation, the issues in our body. And once
Yeah.
you start to choke out organs, or you start choking out highways, what happens when you get a flood and you lose a major highway? You definitely disrupt the flow of getting food and getting supplies and getting emergency services. Our bodies are the same way. So it's
Yeah.
if you're constantly eating a tornado and constantly eating a hurricane, you're definitely not going to let your body ever recover from those things. And so
Yeah.
fasting helps. Plant-based options help. Just trying to clean up the body in the best way that you can. Is meditating really helps a lot, and people don't understand that. Steam room. If you get to, go to a steam room,
Mhm.
you'll turn on your metabolism, and you'll start pushing things out of your body that are just stuck and stagnant.
Yeah.
Don't sit there for a constant 30 minutes, in and out a couple times. Don't kill yourself. Like, just learn your body and understand it. And once you can get into that space, you can start to really give thanks to cancer. Like, damn,
Mhm.
I was not honoring my body. I was not honoring my spirit. I wasn't honoring my community. And I was really a disservice. And you'll start to see all the things around you that were causing cancer, giving you cancer. And this oil just helps you clear all that, detoxify yourself of it, raise your higher consciousness and your vibration. And just cancer can't live in that space.
I mean, I think that there's so many people now that are disconnected from themselves in general, that they're not awake and they're kind of robotic. And I know for myself, I've at one point in my life I was awake, and then I had a kid and life got in the way, and then about a year and a half ago I realized, oh my God, I've been sleeping, and I didn't know how long I'd been sleeping, but I kind of like woke up and realized it just happens sometimes. Life just happens, and I was on autopilot, and I was functioning well, and I was doing great in life, but I was not connected to myself. And like you said, through taking care of what we put in our body, and what we listen to, who we hang out with, and like, are we in bright spaces, are we going into dark spaces, and the music we listen to, and our environment and everything is so important. And I feel like it's so easy to disconnect. And I think a lot of healing is about just like reconnecting with our soul, reconnecting with our purpose, reconnecting with spirit, reconnecting with each other. Right?
Totally.
We've gotten so disconnected from ourselves and each other, and that's huge.
And that's where, with the work that I was doing, from the beginning of the movement, to just being able to have 100 pounds of weed and not having the cops kick your door in, and having a piece of paper that was like this force field. They're like, oh, doctor's signature, and the cops were like, "Ugh,"
Mm-hmm.
and they leave. Like, we felt so empowered that it turned into like, what are we doing? So now what do we do all this stuff? Like, we're not hiding it, we're not running from it anymore. What can we do to benefit it? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's here now. It's abundant. And this was 20 years ago, when it was personal growers. You're growing in your backyard. I was growing in my garage. Like, and there was abundance of cannabis to where we were like, hey, how can we make this make sense? And our good friend would come out of the doctors, and they prescribed him suppositories, and we looked at the chemicals in it, and we're like, dude, that's not going to help you. And so once we got into that space and started to teach people of like, well, how much do I need to take, and what is the regimen every 4 to 6 hours, 300 milligrams, 200 milligrams, and it's like, we have this indoctrination in us that says knowledge is power, but it's actually this like vice little tool that puts us in this little box that it's really hard to check all the boxes because we know it all. And
Yeah.
so I break the window of people of that stuff, and I let them feel themselves, and I let them experience the medicine. And in that medicine, I have a honest conversation. It's just like the integration that we do with, the ayahuasca peyote ceremonies and combo ceremonies. The people that we work with, it's a similar context. It all came down with, what did medicine do to my body? How did it relieve this situation? And how do I seek this without this medicine?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to express that to people of like, okay, so this is the dose you need to take to make sure that you can do this. But on the flip side, if you don't want to experience this medicine, try to change your diet, juice a little bit more, exercise a little bit more. And, these things you don't need to take this stuff all the time. If you're not fighting cancer anymore, I have a lot of patients that have gone into remission, and they have to stay on the oil because over my 30 years of doing this work, if you beat cancer and you've used cannabis and you stop using cannabis, even as preventative maintenance, it comes back, and it comes back so aggressive that we can't do anything but set up the next step of them not here. And it's really hard because I can't put out a letter to the medical industry of this stuff, and I can't get the word to the masses. And so I've just tried to teach them of like, all right, you're sleeping a full night's of rest. You're not sleeping a full night's rest of anymore. You're taking this much. We need to increase more. We need to give you a full night's of rest. We need to make you feel good during the day. Rest is the best medicine. And what's the other one? Laughter, right? And I think ganja does that without even trying. So
Mm-hmm.
if we cannot overdose the person to where they're having anxiety attacks and hear their hair growing and their heart beating in their toes, like, we can put them in a pretty good space to where they get a lot of relief. Uh, I've had a lady that was in 17-year morphine drip, and we got her off of that, and she felt more human before she passed, and she was able to give tons of lifelong efforts to her great grandkids and her granddaughter and her daughters, that profound healing for the family. And that was just this syringe, like, I gave her this, and she's never used cannabis, and she was like, I every time that morphine thing kicks on, I start to panic and get anxiety. Do you think I should turn it off? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm not your doctor, but you sound like a pretty smart person. That doesn't seem like that's making sense, right?
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and yeah, I also heard, like, it just made me think of a lot of times when people have a terminal illness or cancer or something like that, and they're in that stage of passing, I mean, this just happened with my girlfriend and her mom, that patient ends up getting overwhelmed with like extreme anxiety. And then the same, like you said, and not being able to sleep, and being able to have cannabis in those circumstances gives them a much more peaceful passage to leave this planet.
And that's what the whole Proposition 215 was founded on. Dennis Perone, thank God I got to meet him, and he became a great mentor to me, and he taught me a lot of stuff, and he showed me things that were super impactful to me on a personal level with AIDS and stuff. And his partner Jonathan passed of AIDS in like 1992, and that's what pushed him to do the medical marijuana law. And he's the one that wrote the law. And so when I met him, he told me that this passion had to stay going, and I just believe it. And it saves me every day in my life, and I've helped many people get off of things that they never expected. I've helped people get off of heroin. I've helped people get off of methadone. I used to go to methadone clinics and get people off of methadone. I've been able to help this in tremendous way. I believe it helps everything if somebody is tired of what's been bringing them down.
Yeah.
So I'm here to help people make sense of things. And so I make products that you put just into your stomach, you rub onto your body. And when that's all good, maybe we'll smoke a joint and enjoy the moon, you know?
So before we wrap up, I'm really curious about THC and CBD. I know a little bit about that, but I'm assuming my listeners would love some clarity on that as well, and the benefits of each. Like, we've talked about THC and the benefits of that. But let's talk a little bit about CBD, and then in combination together, and then separate.
Not a problem at all. So CBD, from I express to people, is we kind of found the product. We were kind of lost of, like, we're not getting high, but this guy was complaining, and we're like, yeah, but dude, like, you're amped up, and you're not all sore. Usually you're cramped up, and usually you complain from the corner, and you're like pumped up. What's going on? He's like, oh, what is this stuff? And we've CBD, we realized that it really is a great pain reducer, inflammation reducer. It's also caffeine in the body. As soon as you're taking CBD, it's caffeine. So whoever's sold you CBD as a bedtime regimen, it's just selling something they bought too much of.
Yeah.
Unless you are just fresh out of surgery or in tremendous pain, it's not going to put you to sleep. And if you are in those two pain situations, and I turn your pain completely off, you're not going to sleep. You're going to want to play your guitar. You're going to want to, paint something. You're not in pain anymore. And so we have to work with CBD in a very respectful way. So I try to express to people how to use CBD. So a hip surgery patient taking this oil when they go to bed. During the day, they're taking full THC, RSO, when they go to bed. When they wake up in the morning, I call it Velcro on the bed. They don't want to get out of bed. They're literally stuck to the bed. So I tell them, in that moment, you use that to do your shit, shower, and shave. Get up in the bathroom, use that weird space that you feel a little weird and stuff. Now, if you're dizzy, don't get up, but stay hydrated. Drink some good quality mineral waters, some good alkaline waters. In that space, when you wake up and you're feeling a little loopy, get up, get your shit, shower, and shave done. That's going to help with inflammation, irritation in the body, rigor mortis in the body for being in bed for 8 hours because you're sleeping solid. You use that space for that time. Now, once you get out of the shower and you get good, that's where my daytime capsule comes in, and that's high CBD. And depending if they're fighting cancer or not, will determine if they have THC in it or not. I have a bunch of patients that aren't fighting cancer. I have a masseuse lady that she massages 10 people a day. She's in tremendous body pain, and she has a lot of body fatigue, and she takes a high CBD capsule with 0 THC in it. The CBD capsule that I offer her, if she bought it at a dispensary, would probably be $100 a capsule. It's ridiculous because the dosage that she needs is a high dosage. So the hip surgery patient that took the oil to go to bed at night, when they woke up and they got out of the shower and they used that space to use the high part to move through those hard moments and keep their body moving. As soon as they eat something, they take the daytime capsule, which is high CBD. Again, depending on if they're fighting cancer or not, or surgery, depends on the THC. That will help suppress the effects of the THC that you took from the night before. It'll help push that effect away, and the caffeine from the CBD will start to push through and kind of wake you up. It'll also keep the inflammation, irritation down in your body, so now you can get motivated with your day, go to the grocery store, go to work, get into traffic.
Yeah.
figure out a new painting, try a new guitar jam, and so it puts you into that space to where you had a good solid night's rest. Oh, and your shit, shower, and shave, you literally have a bowel movement like a NFL linebacker, and you are completely flushed out. You feel fresh and renew, and now
Hmm.
you're ready for the day. So whether you have your coffee and then you take your CBD capsule within the next hour, you are going for the day. And I try to keep people in that space to where the CBD makes sense. So the hip surgery guy, he started using the CBD because he had to take a shower. He had to make himself food. And so the high CBD dosage was take the high CBD dosage. And he had a tincture and he had capsules. He took the tincture as soon as his nausea and the pain started to subside. He took the capsule because when you took it orally, the onset is immediate, but it burns off like within an hour and a half. It metabolizes very fast in the bloodstream. So the relief is really short. When you take a capsule, it takes about 30, 40 minutes before the onset, and it gives you about
Yeah.
4 to 6 hours of relief. So I told the gentleman, he got home from his surgery, you need to take a shower? He said, yeah. I said, so take the tincture. After your stomach starts to feel a little bit better, take the capsule. Once you start feeling really good, about 5, 10 minutes into that, start moving yourself to the shower. He was able to get himself to the shower, take a quality shower, not hurt himself. He didn't turn the pain off. He lowered the pain to a level that he was able to maneuver and do things, not strain or hurt himself. Because at the beginning of CBD, we had people popping staples, pulling stitches, pulling muscles. And so I had to
Hmm.
learn how to respect CBD. So
Yeah.
in that, he learned that a certain dosage was able to get him to move around. And once he was done with that, he was able to lay down because if they do too much work, when the CBD starts to wear off, the soreness comes in intense.
Yeah.
So the CBD
Hmm.
helps with inflammation, irritation, mobility, focus, and pretty much all day morale, good morale. CBD really helps with that.
But now CBD is legal, and so it's like sold everywhere, and you can get CBD lotions and CBD, and like I'm assuming not all CBD is created equal. And so, how do people get high quality and know where to find that, or if it's good or not?
I would try to find the companies that have been there for a long time. There's names and faces of people that have been activists that have been there for a long time that in your local region can you suggest people that, again, with a grain of salt, a lot of these people, they're not going to like somebody because they can't work with them or won't work with them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, pick and choose from people, find the local community. I don't really know how for them to find that community because that's how I learned that there wasn't quality products out there, that people were using trash and people were using isopropyl alcohol, causing people to have blindness and liver and organs to bleed. And like, dude, you're doing a great disservice and sweeping up product off the floor and selling it to you like it's Rick Simpson oil or Phoenix Tears or, making vape pens out of the trash. And it's really hard to segue them to what's clean and
Yeah.
proper and good. But if they're following regulation and they don't have any fines against them, or the fines are minimal and it's nothing really crazy, and there's not any chemicals or crazy molds or mildews, and just you got to educate yourself. Cannabis is more regulated than our food, so the glitz and the glamour. I wouldn't go so much for the dosages. I would look for more of the organic plant stuff, the stuff that's not coming from distillate or isolates, the things that are full plant extractions,
Yeah.
full plant things like that are less sugars and preservatives. I would recommend people like that. And then, you can do your own personal dosage. And for a gram of CBD, that's 1,000 milligrams of CBD. So if you can go to you find a good quality CBD provider, buy some CBD, melt that in some coconut oil and put that in some capsules. And, if you don't use too much coconut oil, you can have about 10 milligram capsules and you can take those a couple times during the day. And it's better than taking ibuprofen or a Tylenol.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I express people with CBD. That's how positive
Yeah.
it is. That's how good it works. Now, for fighting cancer, it's not gonna. It'll stop the inflammation and the scar. It'll help the scar tissue and things like that. But it's not putting a gun to cancer's head.
Yeah. Yeah.
THC is going to do that. It's going to put you in a heavy space. It's going to make your body detox. It's a psychoactive. The Delta 9 in it is kind of an entheogenic effort in the medicine. And so you go into a type of psychedelic process. It puts you in a psychotropical experience space. So be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Little goes a long way if you're not experienced, and just work in that space to. If you have to use THC because you feel that it's going to benefit you, use it right when you go to bed at night, so you can just sleep it off, and do that a couple times. Even if you're smoking a joint, take a couple hits right, go to sleep. Go to sleep. You do that for about a week. Smoke that joint at lunchtime. You won't have anxiety attacks. You won't freak out. Your body will metabolize all of that, and you don't need to go through the freak out of your body breaking that down.
Yeah.
So I recommend people for that. Now, together, the way they work together is this. My analogy is this. CBD is like, imagine the highway right now. What's your guys' 25, right? That goes through the whole middle of your state, Interstate 25 or something like that. So
Yeah.
imagine that, all the big rigs on it, right? All the big rigs, they have trailers, and in those trailers are everything we need. All the goods are in those trailers. That's CBD. The furniture, the hammocks, the soft drinks, the food, it's all in the trailer.
Yeah.
That's CBD. It doesn't go anywhere without the driver. That's THC.
Yeah.
So if you want more CBD to push through your body and give you more, you just need at least 1 milligram of THC.
Okay.
1 milligram of the THC will push itself through your body farther than it can without using THC. And at the same time, you can't make CBD product 100% CBD. All CBD product has at least a tiny bit of THC in it. So it's always
to push it through.
Yep, it's always going to push it. That's just because the plant does that, and the laboratories can't remove. You'll always see 99.9% CBD.
Yeah.
That 0.1% is going to drive the CBD through your body.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But the more THC you add to that CBD, a lot of people say the 1-to-1 ratio, 1,000 milligrams of CBD to 1,000 milligrams of THC fixes the world. It does great. It is really amazing. It's very good. It's also expensive as heck. So just don't get caught on just learn your body and find out what makes sense. And you can sometimes make your own 1-to-1 without, with a couple of cheat codes. Again, get a gram of CBD, which you can anywhere cost from, $8 to $20, depending on the space you're at. A gram of the oil itself is probably, I don't know about Denver's prices. In California, it's like $60. It's like $60 for a single gram of RSO.
Yeah.
And so you take that 1 gram and 1 gram, you put that in 1 cup of coconut oil or MCT oil, you heat it up in your stove, you don't burn it, you just heat it up, melt it all together. You let that cool off, and you take a tablespoon of that right when you go to bed, or you take that in the morning when you're starting your day, and you've put enough oil into your body to lower the inflammation in your body, get rid of irritation. If there's any anomalies growing, the THC is going to walk up and carjack it, and let your body disperse it. So it just puts you more in a self-preserved space of yourself. Nothing is you're not inflamed to where you're coming. Your whole mentality is coming from a pain derivative mentality, or your bipolarism is just coming from an anxiety or a frustrated space because your body is inflamed or attacking you. So if we could turn all that stuff off, we can find out who you are, what you really need, and what you want. And in that you can start, cleaning your body out. And I just have a breast cancer patient the other night come over, and it was her second time picking up a 10-gram syringe from her recent session. And she told me she was getting a bunch of inflammation around her body. And I asked her what has been her diet and what has she been eating. And she said a regular Mexican diet. And so I had to talk to her about food. And it was kind of a trick. And she said, I've been going to these oncologists and doctors for the last year and a half. Nobody's ever talked to me about anything like this.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
And so the work that I do goes to many levels, to where it teaches you about how to honor and love yourself, because everything outside this world is not to honor and love yourself. It's to make you dependent and to make you feel like you're going to be broken forever. And I've learned that you can fix some problems and you can put them away and learn where you got them from and never walk down that alley again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the work that I focus on most of the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Eddie. Thank you for sharing all of this and for the work that you do. And I'm going to put your links in the podcast notes, but would you like to share how people can connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on not all the social media things, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. putting out this kind of information, I don't really put it out too much. The documentary that I have is on Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Apple TV, um, on Instagram and Facebook, Eddie Funxta, Funxta. Uh, and when that comes up, you'll see on Instagram my entheogenic Eddie page comes on. I'm a handpan player and a didgeridoo player, but percussionist, a professional percussionist, and I play in like ayahuasca ceremonies, kambo ceremonies, and peyote ceremonies and stuff like that. So, um, a lot of that information is there. That's my current work I'm doing, but um, I have.
And you're an amazing artist. Amazing. I've heard some of your stuff and it's amazing. Beautiful.
Thank you. And that's all comes from, I was helping people in the professional music world with this oil and stuff too. So it's uh, all that stuff can be found. Like my YouTube, there's a lot of my music stuff and things like that. They just did a feature they just redid the documentary about cannabis and cancer. I don't know what they're going to call it, but that's going to be coming out on Amazon Prime, I believe, Tubi TV. I think HBO might be picking it up this time also. And so
Nice.
they'll be on there. I have a link tree. And I think if you just type in Eddie Funxta, it comes up to my link tree and all of my documentaries, publications. I was on ABC News last year about ayahuasca, playing music and ayahuasca ceremonies on ABC News. I have write-ups and articles I've written about Bufo all the way back from 2014 to which I actually got to interview my good friend that actually did the articles about. So all the information is in my link tree, but you can find all of my media through there, my contacts on there and stuff. So I'm easy to reach. I'm easy to contact. It's just hard to get my attention.
Nah. Well, thank you, Eddie. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me some time.
Thank you for listening to the Connected Community Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I can be found at www.nickyyoga.com, NICKYYYOGA.com. Until I see you again next week, I hope you have a beautiful day.